Welcome to This Explainer. Let's just dive right in, because today we are going on a really fascinating journey to discover if the ultimate blueprint for human survival wasn't actually built from stone, silicon, or steel, but entirely from invisible living words. I mean, think about how absolutely terrified we are of losing our data today, right? We are completely obsessed with physical permanence. We build these massive server farms cooled by underground rivers. We fortify Arctic seed vaults deep inside frozen mountains. We operate on this underlying assumption that if you want to preserve accumulated knowledge, you absolutely must lock it down in hard hardware. But what if, for thousands of years across a massive continent, the most enduring vault of human knowledge only existed as long as someone was actually speaking?
Instead of handing the next generation a static, printed textbook or, a locked read-only hard drive, these African societies utilized compelling stories, and they treated them exactly like open-source software. Picture a communal fire at night. The elder storyteller acts as the lead developer, pulling up the source code of their culture. But here's the genius part. They patch that code in real time, motivated entirely by immediate survival. If the village is facing a severe drought, the elder heightens the stakes of the story, really emphasizing the disastrous consequences of hoarding water. They update the software on the fly to ensure the children download the exact survival manual they're going to need for their environment tomorrow.
Now, since we are looking at a massive continent of 54 countries, this narrative code shifts drastically based on local geography. The physical landscape shapes the structure, and the environment dictates the variables. In the dense Ashanti forests of West Africa, the code prioritizes the spider. Down in the bushveld of South Africa, where devastating droughts are common, the survival manual leans heavily into the savanna megafauna and the clever hare. And over on the Swahili coast, well, the stories absorb the maritime reality of the vast Indian Ocean merchant trade network.
But across all these diverse regions, we see the absolute dominance of one thing: the trickster archetype. Think about it. If you were creating a survival manual for a pretty hostile world, your first instinct might be to make the apex predator, like the lion or the elephant, the hero, right? But these elders deliberately focused on tiny, physically vulnerable tricksters. Their motivation was brilliantly simple: teach a counterintuitive lesson to kids who are literally at the bottom of the food chain. Relying entirely on brute strength is a massive liability because you will eventually meet a predator bigger than you. But intellect, adaptability, and communal cooperation, those traits scale infinitely against brute strength. Let's look at the quintessential trickster journey, the West African tale of Anansi the spider. Driven by pure, selfish greed, Anansi somehow manages to gather all the world's wisdom into a clay pot. He desperately wants to hoard it, so he tries to climb a smooth tree to hide it, but this bulky pot on his stomach just keeps pulling him down. Eventually, his young son simply suggests, "Hey, why not tie it to your back?" Anansi gets so frustrated that his own kid outsmarted him, while he literally held all the world's wisdom, that he throws the pot to the ground in a total rage. It shatters, and boom, the wisdom is shared with the world. It's just the perfect visualization of the cultural rule that intellect must never be selfishly guarded.
And here's where it gets really clever. This trickster dynamic was also driven by the storyteller's ultimate motivation: simply not getting killed. It offered them this genius survival tactic: plausible deniability. You see, an elder couldn't directly mock an incompetent or greedy king without risking severe punishment. But they could easily tell a hilarious, highly engaging fable about a bloated, greedy elephant who constantly gets outmaneuvered by a clever little spider. The entire village understands exactly what human motivations are being critiqued, but the storyteller stays perfectly safe, wrapping a sharp political critique securely inside a harmless children's tale.
So that brings us to Section 1. Biological drama, and how they projected human flaws onto the natural world. Diving into these archives, you quickly realize the elders weren't just teaching morality and social hierarchy, they were basically conducting early scientific inquiry, saturated with incredibly petty human drama. Take the biological reality of the food chain. Science says snakes eat rodents. It's just cold biology. But in these folktales, the snake and the rat were originally best friends who had a catastrophic falling out over hoarded wealth and financial betrayal. By framing this biology as a bad roommate situation that escalates into eternity, these storytellers made abstract economic warnings absolutely unforgettable for a young audience. This brilliantly illustrates the architecture of what we call wise stories. They projected deeply flawed human motivations onto the environment itself. Why does dawn break? Well, it's pure arrogance. The rooster once claimed the sun as his personal property. Why does a lizard rhythmically bob its head up and down? Actually, scratch that. It's not a muscular reflex. It's the fallout of a scandalous state secret involving three beautiful princesses and the destructive nature of royal gossip. The genius here is that every single time a child sees a lizard nod or a snake chase a rat, the natural environment is literally visually reinforcing the community's moral code.
Moving on to Section 2, Scaling the Code, from simple animal fables to massive human epics.
Now, as great as a clever spider is for daily survival, a simple fable just can't process profound existential threats or complex royal lineages, right? To process deep human grief, folly, and divine intervention, the narrative architecture really had to scale up. These grand cinematic epics provided the overarching operating system for the entire society. Take ancient Rwanda's tale of Misake, Daughter of Thunder, which involves sky gods, complex marriage rites, and the raw power of lightning. Or look at the Skull's Deception from Calabar, centering on a beautiful but deeply disobedient daughter who falls for a deceptive spirit. These aren't just daily utility apps. These are the heavy structural operating systems for entire lineages.
Which leads us right into Section 3, the Frozen Code, and the transition from live performance to static print. To understand how these hyper-localized epics reached our global audience today, we have to look at what happened when foreign collectors arrived on the scene. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, colonial administrators and military captains like George W. Bateman and Andrew Lang observed these incredible communal events. Motivated by a genuine desire to preserve them, they wrote these stories down in English and shipped them off to publishers. But in doing so, they completely altered the medium, effectively freezing this open-source software in time.
And here, unfortunately, is the critical data loss. Transitioning from a live, interactive performance to a printed text, well, it's like turning living open-source code into a locked, read-only PDF. The essential call and response dynamics are completely erased. The musical interludes and rhythmic gestures just vanish. The elder's ability to patch the story for an immediate crisis or a specific child's question is entirely gone. And often, the raw survival context was completely sanitized for a Victorian reading audience. We are left with the transcript of an event, but we lose the beating heart of the event itself.
Finally, let's look at Section 4, the modern digital campfire, and how we're patching the code today.
While the printed text gave us a crucial bridge for global access, to truly unlock the value of these archives today, we have to recognize something fundamental. Our human motivations, our jealousies, our greed, our desperate need for cooperation literally haven't changed. We've simply moved the location of the fire. When we participate in massive digital forums and sprawling comment sections, we are actively writing the next iteration of the software. We are continuously patching the code of our own human operating system. So I leave you with this to consider. Thousands of years from now, when future historians dig through our digital servers to decode the blueprint of our current society, what modern trickster fables and what essential survival manuals will they realize we are downloading right now?